It's time for windshield time. And of course, you ever catch yourself yelling at the inside of your vehicle, maybe beating on the steering wheel, looking at a lot of the windshield and thinking about what's going on around the world, and just driving you crazy? I mean, it's this Green New Deal, and I've got a piece of paper here I want to share with you. And many of you know out there, I am a state representative, House District 74, and I pushed a bill to allow for what's going on in the state of Tennessee right now with industrial hemp. But then the Farm Bill passes in Washington, D.C., and with that, we're waiting for rulemaking to come out of Washington, D.C. into not just the state of Tennessee, all the states. They'll release that. It'll probably be this summer or late fall. And then the state of Tennessee, the Department of Agriculture, will take a look at that, and then we'll decide what we need to change in rulemaking with the bills probably next year to help out the farmers, the growers, the processors. But things we do in this country, then we've got to go back with some bills, correct some things that went bad. But what I'm looking at is says a farm journal, and this come off the internet, Ag Web, powered by Farm Journal. The author is Anna Lisa Laca, Laca is the lady's name, and the topic, cannabis and U.S. agriculture. More specifically, and this was released on February 11th, 2019, the Bank Secrecy Act makes growing hemp a risky business. A special report. When President Donald Trump signed the 2018 Farm Bill, industrial hemp became a commodity crop around growing cannabis, and the lack of guidance from federal bank regulators means growing it can put your business at risk. A Farm Journal survey of 950 farmers shows definite interest in growing the crop, most commonly known for marijuana. In fact, 47% of those surveyed said that they were interested in growing cannabis. More than 55% said if growing cannabis was 10 times as profitable as growing soybeans, they'd be interested, while 34% of farmers say they have financing options available. Bankers caution it's not that easy. Under the Bank Secrecy Act, which was put in place to prevent money laundering, anytime a banker transacts what they believe to be a suspicious activity with a borrower, they are required to complete a suspicious activity report. It's still unclear whether or not growing hemp falls under the Bank Secrecy Act, says Kurt Covington, Executive Vice President and Chief Credit Officer at Farmer Mac. Furthermore, hemp is still considered a drug, notes Alan Hoskins, president of American Farm Mortgage and Financial Services. Therefore, lenders are bound by regulations. While Covington says federal regulators are not likely to give much detailed guidance anytime soon, farmers and bankers need to analyze several business complexities. Growing hemp isn't legal everywhere. Only 41 states allow for industrial hemp to be grown on a commercial scale. Without a change on the federal level, the state laws will continue to be different, says Keith Knutson, President and CEO of Security Bank. If it's legal in your state, you must obtain licensing and permits to provide to your banker. Even where legal, farmers growing hemp face restrictions. Okay, we understand that here in Tennessee. Hemp, per the Farm Bill, can contain more... Okay, let me back up. Hemp, per the Farm Bill, cannot contain more than 0.3% of the psychoactive chemical THC, which produces a high. This isn't a deal where your lender just grants you a loan and hopes for the best, Covington cautions. This requires regular inspections to the facilities to ensure the THC levels are legal, and that this hasn't overtly or inadvertently gone from a hemp growing facility to a cannabis growing facility. Got that? Now keep in mind, it's a lot of your marijuana, if they're growing it for that, they want at least 15% THC. So even if we had industrial hemp at 1%, folks wouldn't be growing it trying to get high off the THC. All right, we'll continue. Farmers should regularly test their crop to ensure proper THC levels and maintain documentation to prove as much, Covington advises, as the consequences of not doing so are drastic. The authorities will come in and test the THC of that crop, and if they find it to be higher than what it's supposed to be for hemp, you will have the pleasure of watching your collateral go up in smoke, pun intended, he says. They will demand that you destroy the entire crop immediately. That's true. My first crop, there was some challenges in getting it tested in a timely manner, and I had two different varieties, an Italian variety and a French variety, and they came out, the state of Tennessee, the Department of Agriculture, they came out to test it. The plant technician from the department told me that it was too early, it wasn't ready to be tested. So he came back, that was July, came back the first part of August and tested, finally, it was like 2 weeks later, tested, and then it was 2 weeks later, he said the test came back bad and would have to come out and retest it again. And so in that time, I was trying to get him back. The birds were eating the seeds, eating the plant like crazy. Now, the French variety, the Futura 75, it matured quicker than the Carmangol, the CS variety. I can't say, Solanata, the CS Italian variety. It matured later. So by the time I got a legitimate below the THC, I guess it was way below the 0.3. It was like 0.03. Came back, but by then the birds have already ate all the seeds off of it, so it wasn't good. So I could tell what the farmers, the growers, what kind of situation we're going to run into for testing for the THC in our hemp crops. All right, so, and that's right, where they said they will demand that you destroy the entire crop immediately. That's right. So if it comes up hot, just say goodbye to it. All right, we'll continue on. Be careful with self-financing. A lot of growers are looking to credit cards and cash to self-finance their hemp enterprises, Covington says. But if you have other enterprises financed at the bank, you could be putting your entire farm at risk. Your banker will argue the cash that you have actually came off the crops they financed because they have a collateral interest in all of your assets: cash, receivables, crop inventory, land, equipment, and buildings, he says. Understanding cannabis laws are constantly changing. We have to continually watch that changing in the regulations. Knudsen says, as laws are changed, they'll come with their new regulations, but that doesn't happen overnight. Farmers should talk to their lender first before diving into this venture, Hoskins says. Look at what the impact is going to be for your farm, he says. When you have revenue, are you going to be able to legally deposit it in the bank? Have a discussion with your lender and your institution's deposit person. Anyway, that concludes this article, but it's good points. It's just about every day I talk to somebody. Somebody will call, email, text me, and want to discuss about hemp, industrial hemp in the state of Tennessee. Now, it's interesting that we were calling it industrial hemp, but then the Farm Bill passes that now they have just defined it as hemp and not cannabis, which is the marijuana. A Farm Journal special report, here's a side note, reveals farmers and producers' attitudes about cannabis and gauges their interest in growing cannabis as a commercial crop for medical use, recreational use, industrial hemp, and in an animal feed. Now, keep in mind, it was it was 2 years ago for industrial hemp in Tennessee. Last year, I passed a bill allowing that you could feed livestock plant as well. So with your seed cake, with the extraction of the oil out of the plant, things left over, it was Tennessee law. It was very restrictive, didn't allow that for happen. We passed that bill. I don't recall the bill number, but you could certainly feed that. It's my wife's hogs loved it. We fed the cows what was left over. It was actually, we opened the gate to the pasture where I grew my industrial hemp that year, and that was 2 years ago. And the sheep, the cows, the chickens, they all just cleaned up the field. So the volunteers that were coming up, they ate those up. Now, and keep that in mind, is you're not allowed just to let the volunteers come back and grow that. You must sterilize, clean out all of your plants that are growing, so there's no volunteers, and then start over with new seeds. A lot of folks are going with cloning and clone plants, virginized clone plants, trying to get away from anything that will reproduce. And really, if you're going after the CBD product line hemp, you're going to want just the females, and that's where your seed head, that's where you're going to get it all. You don't get it off of the males. And it's been interesting growing industrial hemp, and it's the male plant matures earlier, and you can definitely tell the difference between a male and a female plant. But anyway, there's a lot of crazy things going on in our country, in our state. You just got to educate yourself on what's going on as far as state law, federal law. Like I said at the start of the video, we are waiting on the federal government to hand down, through rulemaking from the Farm Bill, what we have to abide by federally through growing hemp. And then with that, the state will release that. But I'm sure it'll be late fall or come springtime this time next year before we'll have a grasp on the changes that will be made by the Department of Agriculture here in the state of Tennessee. Certainly click on that subscribe button, and let's keep up to date. I did a earlier hemp bill when it was the Candy Crush situation going on Murfreesboro last year, and it's absolutely legal to have CBD products that are made from hemp, which gives that below 0.3%. And you can test for it even after a product is manufactured. There's ways to do that. So we will continue this conversation. Like, share, subscribe, and I look forward to our next conversation about hemp in Tennessee.